June 5th.
June 5th. Last Thursday. And before we do anything, I'd like for us to all stand up and take a minute of silence. We had a passing of one of our prior Board of Supervisors, Bill Guy. I think he served with the district 3-year consecutive terms.
12 years.
12 years to the district, and he has helped, a lot of our community and in Pelican Preserve as well. So if we can all stand up and have a minute of silence. All right, thank you, everyone. We already decided to consideration right. And just as a reminder, if you can silence your phones. So we'll go ahead and we'll pick up on budget discussion.
I do have one public comment. It's up to you if I need somebody to sign up. It's on the technically on the agenda.
We're already past that part on the agenda, but it's up to the board if you wish.
Is this one?
Just one.
Okay, we'll go ahead and I'll go on public comment for this one.
Okay, Stephen Montalbano regarding the budget. Under 3 minutes, and the time will start after you announce yourself.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak at this meeting.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Stephen Montalbano, 12040 Santa Luz Drive, Unit 201. I'm the association president. I just had a couple of items, one of which was the proposed increase in your budget for multifamily and single-family homes within Gateway. And then yesterday, I received new numbers where those have been significantly reduced. Initially, and I'll just speak to multifamily if I may, you'd called for a $600 increase in your CDD fee. That's now been reduced to $157. I'd like to know how that happened. And I still believe that the $157 is too high. I still believe that number should be around $100. Every calculation that I could possibly uncover. And I looked at a number of different items and went through a bunch of different notes. And it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the calculation of next year's 2026 CDD assessment is based on generating future funding for capital reserve projects at cash value. In reality, many of these costs will be long-term funded, not paid as cash. This methodology unnecessarily raises the annual assessment by hundreds of dollars. And I believe I'm correct on that, but if you tell me I'm not, I will stand corrected and ask you for an explanation. But I still don't understand why these fees have gone up so significantly. I don't know what the difference is and why the multi-family units at Pelican Preserve are lower, although there's more of them, are lower than what they are in Gateway multifamily. I further don't understand how in the planning that you just about doubled the cost for the new CDD facility. And I don't understand how you tripled the cost for the ballparks or soccer field. Thank you.
I just have one question. If you can just tell the button. That's okay. All right. That's it? All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the budget discussion. So.
Do you want to start?
Do we want to start with last, or do we want to kind of go back and see the revision, because we had things right? Yeah, so let's start from the beginning.
So we have Stephen Bloom and Russ on the call to answer the immediate question is, what's the big difference between the prior version and this version? The prior version assessed for the shortfall in the admin building and the parks. And Stephen chime in, Laura chime in at any point. We had a substantial amount, the math that we talked about for the capital reserve, doing the 20% average over the next 5 years planned expenditures. At your last Thursday, we said, hey, we want to match what we did last year and bring it down to 279,000. So that was done. What else, Laura?
We shift, yeah, I spent 3 hours on a call yesterday with Stephen and Russ. We shifted some of the capital expenses, the $500,000 project for the parking lot, because we didn't believe it was gonna get done in fiscal 26, so we pushed that off to fiscal 27. Stephen and I combed through line by line in the budget, just looking at things. Our projected interest income, we did raise that because it was considerably less than what we were expecting to get, which helped lower the assessment. So we went through and looked at anything we could possibly find to help get this down.
Okay, so we added in the $100,000 you discussed at the last meeting.
Correct. And I added in Chelsea's wage, her raise, since she'll have that for next year. So that did take it up a little, and then we put the raise to bring it back down.
The interest earnings, just so you know, the prior version only had $45,000 in interest earnings we anticipated for revenue. Stephen and Laura looked at actuals to date, and we're at 170,000 for just this year, so that was bumped up. So that's, you know, $100,000+ offset on our assessments.
We did the same for Pelican.
Yep, we wanted to make sure your interest earnings would help offset that. What else?
That's all the big stuff.
I think
Laura, did you change any silos or any?
No,
Where any line item changed from this to that?
no.
yes.
The pond, the shared flowway, we moved.
The shared flowway was one. So the 1/3 Pelican pays for the shared flowway.
The $25,505.
That split, so it's like 8,000.
For Pelican, 17 some for us.
The shared flowway you put where?
In Waterway,
In Waterway in Pelican?
and
or
yes, and
Gateway?
Gateway, both. It's in both,
So you divided,
yes.
okay. And
Because
then what
it's a shared
else,
expense.
what other line items or silos did you change?
Admin, we put that $100,000 in for the administration, so
Right.
Pelican would have been impacted by that. And then the biggest change
And
is,
did Pelican pay 14 or 17%?
17, because that's the new,
Okay,
and then the
and it
last,
isn't 17% of 100,000, just so everything got divided out, so it went in the proper category, it got divided the same as the rest of the wages, so it's not exactly 17%.
but generally, roughly, okay.
and then the last biggest thing, we put the reserves in the last version. We put, you know, in all of the different silos. If excuse me, if you're, goodness, wrong throat. If you're trying, we assumed, which can be changed here, you wanted to match what you did last year for the reserves. So that, correct me if I'm wrong, was only put into 001.
Correct.
So Pelican would not be contributing to any capital reserves for any of the silos.
So that explains why on page 3, the difference between the prior version 2 and version 3, you've added $62,000, is that correct?
Where are you looking?
Go to the first page, I'm sorry, second page of the shared costs. And go to the bottom. Line item, capital project reserves was not in the last
Correct.
version, and it's now in this version. So
Correct.
that, I'm assuming then that you're saying that the 62,000, if I add all of the silos, 62 plus equals 279?
Yes,
I did not check that math.
it's not. I didn't have anywhere else to put it here. This, in the silo, this is only under gateway.
But my question is that the 279, you basically split among the silos?
Yes,
Yes.
which is exactly what was done just behind the scenes
Okay,
last year.
I was trying to do a comparison between these, and I've got about 15 line items that were questionable from version 2 to version 3 that sooner or later, I guess we'll go through these. How are we going to do that? Or we want to do that right now?
What is the title of the page you're looking at, or page number?
It's on the version 3, it's about the 4th or 5th page. Says fiscal year 2026 allocation of shared costs. She's got it on the screen.
It's limited cost.
That's
Version
board
2 did
book,
not,
page
keep in mind,
7.
version 2 had all that capital separated out as what Steve was talking about, where it was being funded as cash. We're now, this is basically amortizing it with a 279 number.
Okay, I'm on the shared cost there. All right. If you don't mind, reference again what you just asked.
The 62,047, my question was, is that number plus the other silos all?
I'm still trying to
added?
find the 62,000.
It's on the second
Oh,
page,
it's
second
right
page,
here.
all the way at the bottom, the last item.
It's on the new one, not on the,
Correct.
Yes, it's on version 3.
That's what I'm looking, this is version 3.
And
All
it's
the way
board
to the
book, page 7.
Doesn't have page.
Yeah, it doesn't have any page numbers, that's the problem.
It's the second page of the shared cost.
Yeah, second page.
Okay, I'm there.
It's the very last line, right above the subtotal.
Capital project
Yeah, you got it.
reserve.
Yes, and although it says that that's in the Gateway General Fund and Pelican shared, it is not shared in the silo, it is only under Gateway. I didn't have any other way to display it on here, so that it's included just in Gateway. And you'll see that when we get down to the 001 budget, it's only on,
Put a note maybe.
So the 62,000 really isn't there, even though it's in this.
it's in Gateway.
It's in 001 only.
it's not in Pelican. Pelican is paying $0
Put
against
that a
that.
note.
I will.
Thank you.
It was getting
Okay.
very close to crunch time to
Got
get published yesterday.
Want to keep going? I've got to.
Yeah, go ahead, just go
Go
through.
to the next page. I think you just answered the first one. The 175,000 is what you were just talking about, the recalculation of the interest. Okay.
Yes,
Yep, because if you look at my note, it says there was $172,000 in interest as of the end of May, and we still have 4 months to go yet for this year. So Steven and I were both comfortable that the 175 was a reasonable estimate for interest on our investments for next
Okay,
year.
and the special assessment tax collector, that just changed based upon the numbers changing.
Correct.
Okay.
That's an auto calculation.
Lee County impact fee, that's the new fee that we found we got more money than
Yes,
we had before.
that was 377,000 originally.
377 is 489 in
Yes.
version 3.
Yes.
And that is,
So that's a positive.
That's
Yes.
fine, yeah.
that is because the apartment complexes that are being constructed at the Commerce Roundabout, they paid their park impact fees. So we called the county and said, hey, what's the new number? And they told us that is the available amount that we have for us,
And that is earmarked.
for the park.
For the park. Yes.
Then I jump all the way to, what pages?
Just tell me which section.
Waterway management services, item lake maintenance, we bumped that up, looks like about $21,000. Is that an up or down from the other previous?
That's
It's
negative. If you
down?
look to the left, it was $201,000 last year. That number has not changed since the last version. It's only.
Version 2 had it as
Oh,
well.
I looked at the contract, so that's why it went down, so.
Next page, Park and Recreation, this one blew my mind. Why did we have an $80,000 plus addition to payroll salaries? Did we move something from
Because-
someplace to one
Yep,
place?
if you look at the notes, it also includes all the pool and the pool as well. We used to split Parks and Rec, and pool separate. Now they're just all under Parks and Rec. And there's also some admin time in there. I did include all that in my notes.
So there was not an increase, you just combined them?
Correct.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it's one department.
Yes,
Not
correct. It's
sub-
Parks and Rec. You know,
subdivision
we
now.
did keep the expenses, the operating expenses for the pool separate, just so we could track that.
So if I
versus
go
Parks
back to
and
the
Rec.
old version 2 and add the numbers, they equal
It
this.
should, I didn't change that. No, they did go up a little bit because of the
Because of the
$100,000
$100,000,
bucket.
yeah.
But that's there's a separate line. It's that market adjustment line, so that's the only increase. That $7,400 on the market adjustment line, this year, that's the only new, because that was the portion of the 100,000 that you said.
Then on the
So-
next page, sod replacement, soccer field, 230,000. Is that, I thought you said earlier we were deferring that. What were you deferring?
The parking lot expansion.
Parking lot side.
Yes, that was 500,000.
That's for 2 fields, right?
No, that is for one complete field sod replacement. And then the typical spot replacement on the remainder of the fields.
Did we get,
Steven.
did we
You guys are
get,
kind of loud, sorry.
Hey, Steven?
Excuse me, you guys are kind of
Sorry.
loud.
Thank you.
You can talk about in the lobby if you'd like.
Go ahead.
did we get turf estimates?
I did not.
The next item I had was capital
Well,
projects.
before we leave
Hold
that,
on, Yeah,
that's, how did it get to be so great an increase?
That is a complete, that is tearing out the sod. That sod that we have out there is long past its useful life. This is piggybacking the county's contract that they put out an RFP with JSN to completely remove the sod of one of those fields and totally redo the irrigation, the sod, everything. And it would be a 5-year program. We would do one a year since we have 5 fields.
I really wanted one Gateway Greens was getting rid of all that golf course sod.
So
saying
the county, is it county or city?
The county.
Okay, so the county they're doing other projects. We're able to piggyback on that. Is that still an option if we defer this for a year?
Yeah, well, as long as their contract's valid, otherwise we would have to solicit our own RFP.
So as much as I would love to get new sod for the fields, I think we should defer this item and actually, and you guys may have done some of this due diligence, but I would like to have a formal presentation and proposal with the plan. What does it look like? It's 5 years. How will this benefit Gateway other than, league use? How are we offsetting some of that? I know we've got increases that we've been doing. What are our other options? If we looked at turf, what would that be? Turf over 15 years versus sod as far as maintenance and.
I think Angela did all that, right?
Angela
Because
solicits.
I was gonna say, I spoke with Angela about this, because I had questions, and then he went in great detail with me, so maybe that's something that,
Yeah,
When you're saying turf, you mean artificial?
artificial.
that was a lot more.
And a lot of areas here have gone to turf. I'm not a huge fan because it gets so hot. But again, they do it for a reason. You don't have to cut it. There's very little maintenance to it over time, but it is, in most
Save on
cases.
sprinkler systems.
Yeah, but in most cases, it's more expensive upfront.
Very much.
And if we're balking at 230, I'm sure we would be concerned. But I think if I'm looking at the budget, if there's an opportunity to cut a cost, this is one area that I would be comfortable.
But your 230 is really 230 times 5.
Right,
To
Correct.
implement
Five
that
year
project.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about what does it look like as a much larger project? And look, you know me, I've got 4 boys, we play out there, I coach out there, I'd love to have it. Delaying one field for a year isn't gonna cripple us, but it also slows down the starting process. But in my opinion, my recommendation would be, I want more conversation around this, I wanna know more of a plan, because it is gonna be a very significant expense. We're gonna spend over $1 million.
Want and need.
Yeah, we're gonna spend over $1 million. I'd like to look at the total use and plan of the complex.
We have milked these fields
I was gonna,
along since, I believe these conversations were
You're-
occurring before I started, so.
Well, the other thing too is that this is paying cash. I'd much rather see this debt finance, what's the service life of this? 10 years?
Well,
as
we
of right
got-
now, 38. 39, actually.
Old grass.
Yeah, it's-
So my point is that, again, why are we spending 230,000 times 5, which would be going over $1 million? It's cash. Let's borrow that money and debt finance it. Get the cost down to where people can pay for it after 5 years. The guy's coming here in 6 years, gets it for free. That's ridiculous. Let's debt finance that and look at that. That, to me, is a capital item. Same thing with capital projects and equipment, that 208,000. What makes that up? Why aren't we amortizing that also?
So the biggest portion of the capital projects is the 160,000 pool deck resurfacing.
But why aren't we debt financing that? That's what the whole deal was, is try to take and amortize this stuff instead of paying cash. It's got a 10-year life, why do we want to pay for it in the first year?
It's the purview of the board.
It's, to me, it's a place to cut money, save money.
I think that's a project, and we look at a funding source. And again, I understand why maybe we just are gonna have to set aside some money for just ongoing maintenance for a year. But to me, we're gonna spend 1.2 million just in sod replacement. And how are we gonna offset that? We have increased some of the revenue, but what is the value of bringing in or charging more for our fields? We don't have a concession stand they can use, so there's lost revenue there.
So
We don't operate in the summer, so there's lost revenue through tournaments and other events. So one field isn't gonna help us, offset that cost. I wanna look at it as a complete project, because their fields space in Lee County is extremely high demand, extremely high demand. And we have never wanted to increase too much because we have a direct benefit with 50% of the use comes directly from Gateway residents. The other 50% allows us to have programs of quality to benefit our Gateway residents. So I hate pulling any money out of Parks and Rec, but to me, I think we pull this back and we look at it from a much larger perspective, from the fields and services and programs and revenue opportunities, and just look at it from a bigger perspective.
So the pool resurfacing needs to happen next year.
Yeah, we're,
That has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
250, the 230.
Ed mentioned the 208.
well, so let's go
I
one
thought
thing at
we
a
were
time.
done with this.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's go with the sod replacement, let's finish that, and then we'll do the,
So,
Where-
but
where were
on the
we
sod
on the
replacement, is
question
there
of
any
turning
money
our
that has to
fields
be
over to
allocated
county?
there?
I know at one time I heard conversations about that, and forget,
I'm
but I don't remember.
completely
If Lee
against that.
if Lee County won our fields, would they take them?
I'm completely against that, and I think
Based
we
upon,
have.
based upon history, I would say no. One of the reasons why Lee County uses park impact fees way back when Roger Sherman was on the board, and the board then decided to do the soccer field, was Lee County said, we have the money, but we don't want to do the continual O&M and maintenance and personnel costs of that. That's why Lee County said, here's some parks impact fees. And they did a second tranche later on. So,
So, but even in
maybe
the current
one-
environment, we don't have an opportunity to give it to them? If we-
they would
if we
never,
so
they
choose-
wouldn't put another dime into that field.
Okay, but we wouldn't have to pay for it. It would be a Lee County.
I mean, we had a discussion on this.
That's all I'm asking, is if that is an
We haven't
opportunity.
had a discussion.
it is an opportunity, but recognizing just from, we're not
Are we
reading the
allowed-
paper also, they have a $13 million budget shortfall based upon what
Well,
I read.
okay.
But
That's their problem. I'm
legally,
talking about what ours is.
legally, it's okay. It's
Well, I
allowed.
would like to entertain getting rid of them.
My question was on this, is the 230,000 all just for that one
No.
field?
No,
So it's not 230 is gonna come out, it's gonna be something.
Well, since we had
something's gonna
70
be-
before.
There's gonna be a residue to
It's the
do
net,
other work. What is that number?
Probably 180.
Or you have 2,000 for repair.
Is that O and M in there as well?
$50,000 is
That's
in
what I
there
say,
for
it's only
repair, so it's
50,000.
180,000.
So 180 would come out.
Yes, if you decide not to do that.
I just want to make sure that we're,
And that
well,
would be 180 for 5 years.
well,
Wait, no,
Can you
wait,
pause for a
Paul.
second?
No, I
So-
think it's 70 plus the 50.
That's like 120.
may I answer?
Yeah, so you're thinking from, go ahead.
This current year, we had $70,000. That's to do all 5 fields, any sod replacement that we have during the summer.
70 plus 50.
I reduced
Now it's 50.
That number, anticipating we would have had a brand new field and our cost would have gone down. So if you take out the replacement, the number needs to stay at 70.
Okay, and let's have, I don't want to get stuff.
so we knocked out one.
But have we talked with other experts to say that doing one field at a time is the right thing to do?
You think it's going forward?
Because I'm gonna tell you my position on it. You do one field, where does all the usage go?
The one to the.
On one field. So
Clear it out.
you almost quadruple the usage on that one field, because now everyone, it's the most desirable field. So out of the gate, when a field is new, everyone's gonna be on that new field. I think you'd have to shut it down and do half at a time and
From a project management perspective, doing all of the fields at one time is the most ideal, because then you're paying one mobilization,
That's
demobilization
exactly
cost.
right.
One, you're doing excavation of everything at one time instead of,
that's more cost effective.
that's more cost effective.
And debt finance it and be done.
And Ed
That's what I'm
Ed
talking
would
about.
say 10-year program.
Yeah.
To keep the cost down.
That's the way I would guess.
So we can, if, what I'm hearing, it sounds like you want to reduce it to the 70,000. And then we'll look at artificial, we'll put together a presentation and come back in front of
Put it
you.
as a project,
Well-
make it a project.
And I understand that, but I'm saying, why don't we at least look at getting rid of them? Why do we want to have this burden on us?
Are we required to have X amount of space for Parks and Rec?
Why can't we just have staff contact Lee County and verify one way or the other, is there any interest in this?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
And be done with it.
Get
Just be
a
done.
thought process, and then we can look at what would it take if we would choose to get rid of it. And then if we decide we want to keep it, then I like what Ed is saying, let's go for the 10-year financing. But let's.
Well, we should like a project, and that's
Get
part
rid
of the
of the burden.
project, current state review.
But in the meantime, if we get with the county, we find out and we either eliminate that as an option or an
Yeah.
alternative, or we go on ahead and if they're not interested at all, then we go with what Doug was talking about. Let's go with what the plan is gonna be. Are we gonna go artificial? Are we gonna go sod? What's the long-term advantage or cost of either one of those to what we're really looking at? We know that the going artificial has a huge upfront cost. But then the O&M, and the O&M is irrigation, the O&M is
Cutting it.
cutting. There's a lot of things that go down that are advantageous. But what's the answer over 10 years?
And if the artificial would have a guaranteed durability of 10 years, 15 years,
They
whatever,
typically do.
then what is it typically?
They typically do, 10 to 15 years.
Well, that's another big plus.
So that's
So
the way
I'd like to look at all of it.
yeah, I would too.
That's what I think.
But for budget purposes today, is the suggestion then to change that 230,000 to 70,000?
Yes.
Okay, I can go along with that.
Then dropping down again to the 208, what makes up the 208?
Just a minute.
I had a hard time, I couldn't.
It was 160,000 for the pool deck, 10,000 for bleachers, 13,000 for the pool vacuums, and then 25,000 for the FPL linear park improvements.
One more time, Paul. 160 for pool deck.
Pool deck, it's this line,
Bleachers, 10,000. Vacuums, 13. And FPL linear park improvements for 25.
And why do you say that the pool deck has to be done this year, this
It's,
next year?
it's becoming safety concerns.
Yeah,
The
it's
cracking,
bad.
the,
You see it on the 28th.
I don't have any problem with what you got listed on the deals. Well, my problem is, why are we paying cash for it? It's got a 10-year life. A worst case scenario is go to the bank on a line of credit and we go 5 years Worst case.
You're at
I just don't understand, and I'm totally opposed to any more of this capital coming out as cash. This is ridiculous. This is why the people are seeing the creep on these rates. We pay cash for stuff. It makes no sense.
What is it?
So I did briefly talk to Stephen about a 5-year loan, and Jesus, you always have the option to take out another bond series of that $55 million validation that we did, a couple of years back. It's your purview on which one you want to pursue. Obviously, there's expenses for each of those. If you choose bond, there's bond counsel, there's the engineer, there's the assessment methodology. If you choose a bank loan,
bank loans are a lot cheaper.
well, bank loan, you're subject to whatever, both have an interest rate.
But yeah.
One's a shorter term and one's a longer term. So it's really.
Well, the paint and the pool deck's the one that got, I don't know, $160,000 is worth going over for
See, that's why,
10 years.
that's why I'm looking at, what, 10 years, 5 years, I don't care.
Right.
It's just paying cash is what, people want to know, why the hell did we have creep and a jump in this rate? There's your answer.
Well, we're spending money.
We're spending money like crazy, and you don't have to do it.
Well, I'm less concerned about $160,000 one-time impact fee. Doesn't kind of make sense to me.
My thought is go to the bank, set up a loan, or better yet, like I was talking to Russ and Stephen on, is just take, and if we need to, set up a separate bond series that will allow us take, for example, the vacuum, it's got a 3-year life. Why do I want a 10-year loan on that? That makes no sense. I'd only take out a 3-year note on that. So when we have a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year, or 20-year, the borrowing would be based on that. And we'd be done with it. We're just trying to keep the cash expenditure down to minimal.
You do have available funding in Parks and Rec of the 2023, of the bond validation. You also have the option for a short-term bank loan, which would only be a 5-year term.
Well, these are things that we would not have to do right now, but they would be, we could do them in the next 60 days of between now and the time we present this, because it will not raise it, it's going to lower the number. So that's an option we always do. I don't know how, if you, Steve, can you do a calculation of what the impact of this would be by making that change right now?
Yes.
You can?
So if,
What do you want to change the number
The two items?
I just want to change it to debt finance instead of paying $208,000 in cash. I'd like to see what is the amortized value of that. Pick a number, 5 years.
Okay, so for right now, you want to see that at 0.
No.
You
I
want
want to see it, I want to see it.
ways-
I want
A
to see
different
it.
way to pay it.
I'll make it
So we
real
would
easy.
offset it at
If it's
the
5 years, 208 divided by 5, it's about 42,000. I want 208 to be 42,000.
So this would stay here, but we would offset it at the bottom.
Well,
Because we're still gonna have $208,000 in expenses. What would happen is we would offset it at the bottom,
You're just going to put it down below
Down
under
here.
capital reserve.
under other financing sources. We
so
would-
today you are choosing to set the high water mark.
Correct.
So if you chose to keep that number in there for the high water mark, which is for the letters, which is what, everybody gets and everybody reads, you would have the opportunity over the next 60 days, like you said, Ed, we can, task Stephen and staff with evaluating a 5, that would give us an opportunity to reach out to the bank. What are interest rates right now? Reach out to Rhonda Mossing with bond and see what the rates are going for that and give you a way to finance future capital expenses.
And it sounds like the direction we're going in, and I think we've kind of been doing this anyway in most cases, but it sounds like what we're doing is creating a guiding principle or a policy around capital funding. So I think maybe we need to consider kind of making a stance on that. The board's position on any capital initiatives is it will be debt financed over a determined amount, and they would set a threshold of, any item over X
5
amount.
years, I think,
Yeah.
anything that's 5 years.
Would be funded through
I
that.
think 5 years. is-
That way, we don't have to have this conversation around what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do. We're automatically gonna assume any capital improvement
There's a life beyond 5
that has a
years.
life beyond 5 years, the funding source should be debt finance. So that's what our position is, and unless we say different, the staff and the assistant manager should always operate under those.
So we have a
conditions.
base of which we're going.
Yeah, and
We
then you
should-
just come up with the two options of the debt finance for the 5 years.
Okay, but for purposes of today's vote,
Leave it at 208.
We'll keep it in.
leave it at 208, and then do you want her to add that down below then,
A note,
to make it 42 or not?
No, they're gonna come back in the next 60 days telling us what 208 could do.
our meeting note for
Leave
for
208 in
Laura,
there for right now, okay.
yeah, the meeting note is to look at options for debt financing to reduce that.
Yes, fine.
Yeah, and from a policy perspective and from a management perspective, if the board wants to look at a couple of projects, as opposed to like a 208, maybe a $500,000 5-year term, and have a couple of projects identified.
So not only a time frame, but a cost.
Yes, because typically, yeah, the cost is, you may have points, you may have a nominal, there's law firms out there that all they do are bank loans for local governments. And so their forms are real simple and they're easy to understand, don't take much work. I've done it with some other districts, if they have knowledgeable counsel. So the costs are typically less for those short-term borrowings.
Yeah. And we
Because
could,
you don't have the issuer's counsel opinion, you don't have the bond, you don't have a validation, you don't have all that. Example, River Ridge did a number of projects, like $1 million borrowing from Synovus in 5 years.
Yeah, if we're having the big projects with the longer service life, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yes.
But having these items of which for the next 20 years, if you go and look at the capital reserve, we've got a lot of items that fall in this category of the 5-year very easily, that it would essentially amount to a line of credit. That when we need it, we go borrow.
And some districts have lines of credit, especially like for hurricanes and emergencies.
Yeah.
And so they renew it every year for $2,500.
and staff does a good job of like what we did with SRF with bucketing items, you know, packaging them. So we just continue that practice.
What you got next?
We go with that. Okay. Three more pages.
And before you move, remember we said the 279 of capital reserves? Just, I want you to make note of the capital, the 56,745 Parks and Rec.
So
That's part of the
that's
279.
67, now we're adding 57.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Before you leave that page, Ed,
What?
before you leave the page you're on, the license plate
Yeah,
agreement,
we agree. Yes,
we got $40,000 a year.
yes.
What value do we get out of this? I know we put them in, I thought at no cost for Lee County.
No, we pay the annual fee, it's $5,000 per camera, and what that includes is anything, I've had to call them several times actually. Any maintenance, it includes the transmitting, like we had some cameras that were down, not working, they come, we pay nothing. So that covers all of that, replacement cameras, it's basically just like a service contract.
Have we
But we're
gotten
required
any
to
use
have
out
But
of
that's my point, do we
The
really
sheriff,
want to?
I can tell you that the police use them regularly, like multiple times a day they're in there. looking at
The
stuff.
reports are very, because have you seen it? Like, you can ask for the report, like, in every hit and
Yeah.
every wipe.
Yeah,
So my point was, is it used?
yeah, oh yes,
Well,
definitely.
and my point more specifically, does it impact our residents in our community? I think it helps the police more than it has any impact on us.
Well, but in that,
Oh, but
in
what are
there,
the police doing it, helping us?
Well, but I mean, they've got these cameras everywhere. Why do we need to spend $40,000 a year?
Well, I think the issue is because the action that they're monitoring is here and not someplace
Exactly.
else.
Well, but the cars that come through, they're gonna pick up another camera a mile down the road. I'm questioning, is it really truly worth for us to be spending $40,000 a year? I think if we turn them off, we would never see any impact.
how long is we've had what?
3
About 5 years.
Before
No,
it started.
yeah,
Before it
it might be
started.
2.
It was after me, no, it's been before, it was just before her, it might be like 3, 4
Yeah.
years, maybe.
I think that's a great conversation for Vaughn, like if you reach out to him, because he's the one that I spoke
Who's
with.
on?
Lieutenant Vaughn.
Lieutenant,
I think we
Because I
have to
just don't
come
think it's
in.
yeah,
So we've had it for 3 years. We want to do an assessment. To Bob's point, we want to understand the value of the cameras, and we'll take the cost to the side. We want to understand the value of the cameras to the police department, and more importantly, how does that directly impact residents? You know, because
That's
if
my
if there's a violation
And
or.
we can
you know,
easily do
something
that in the
happens.
next, before the 60 days.
Okay,
Make a
and I'd like to do,
decision
I'd like to, I just don't think if we turned them off, we would know one way or the other, we wouldn't really see any impact.
I think when you talk to the lieutenant, you may want to ask him to look at some of the cases in Cuyahoga County. There's an attempted murder case that's down there. They were able to track the route.
Yeah, and that's kind of, well,
By
I don't
virtue of all
think
these cameras,
that's
they
necessarily
were
wanted to speak, but it's,
in plain reading.
They
Well, I
can
mean, he's
either
gonna be a
sell,
sales-
it's real simple, they can either sell it,
They want
that is a
us to
benefit
have.
to us or not. But
I
yeah,
need the
they want-
report. The report takes the feeling out of it. I think you say, bring me the report and like how many hits you have and what was the end result of it. And then you can make that decision. I think that's the best. So they take the feelings out.
if-
So then go let the county make.
To put it another way, is if it's a benefit to you and we don't have them, will you take them?
Is it worth,
If
is
it's
it worth
that
residents
good, if
paying
it's that
$2 a
valuable,
year
would
to
you
have
pay for it?
cameras?
Well, I've been here 20
Yeah,
years,
$1.50.
I've been here 20 years, 15 without the cameras, 15, 18. And, you know, I haven't seen a change one way or the other. I'm not negating that they could have a positive impact. I'm just saying, is it worth
Let's
40,000?
get them in there
And
and just
if it
explain to
is, and if it is worth 40, why doesn't Lee County foot the bill?
I think you know the answer to that.
Well, yeah, because they can get us to do
They
it.
got somebody else to
Because
do
what
it.
we heard when we came in here is we're gonna put them in for nothing. And they did.
No, it was always a cost.
No, they installed them. They were being installed for free.
Well, let's
No, I
find out.
thought we did not pay for any of the equipment or.
None of the
installation.
installation.
It's just been the $5,000 per
As soon as it's
year.
terminated, they all go
Yeah.
back to them. That's why.
Well, I'm okay with that. I'd love to go back.
Okay,
So
let's
we're
get
gonna
them-
evaluate
Let's
that.
get them in and sell it to us. Make it show that it's worth it.
Okay,
Next item I have, go back 3 more pages. Gateway Common Construction, 3,222,000. What is that?
Go back, what are you looking
Go,
at?
go up 2 pages.
Are we in, where are you?
What's the
What
title?
section?
Other fees and charges.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, don't give me pages, give me sections, please.
oh, is that by bonds, interest, and carry?
Yeah, give me sections, I'll be able
Okay.
to find it.
3,222,652.
Yep,
What is that number?
that is the cost, that is our share, well, all of it, because it's all Gateway. That's the cost of just the Gateway Commons construction,
The park,
the park.
the
yes.
park.
So if you
That's
look,
that's a total all-in cost of the park.
yes,
Okay.
so if you look, it, like I have a note here that it is offset by bonds, interest, and carry forward, so it does get subtracted out below,
Yeah,
so,
it's all debt finance.
yes.
Capital,
So that's just for this coming year?
That's the total cost of building the park.
For this coming year only?
Total cost of
Total.
building the
All
park.
the way to
it's capital
total.
cost, and that's
Capital,
being debt financed.
yes.
So,
Okay, we haven't committed any
Yes.
more than phase 1.
Yes,
It's
that's,
everything.
that's for everything that you've approved.
yeah.
Okay, but we've only approved phase 1.
So everything on phase 1.
Then the 1,853,000, is that the add-on of the building?
That is the total cost of building the building. So that's including, that's the new total, that's the 27%
So
of
that,
the total cost of the
when you
building.
say that, you gotta watch that, because that's dangerous, because that building is 59% utility.
Yeah, it's the
So when you do
27%
this is 27%
of the total cost.
of the differential
No,
add-on
it's
cost.
27% of the
Total,
cost.
pure total, so
Yes.
6,800,000
Yes.
times 0.27 amortized is
Yes.
what it is. Okay,
And then again, that is offset below between bonds, carry forward, interest, all of that.
gotcha, okay. You want to go ahead on that?
And you'll see that repeat in the enterprise fund and in the Pelican fund.
And then on the-
For their portion, the 14% for Pelican and the 59% for enterprise.
And then on the next one, the bottom line, next page, is the net. It looks like we went from 797 to 8, right there, 8855.
That's other financing
Yeah,
sources.
yeah, so,
That's just the total of everything we're talking. right?
That's the total of all of this right here,
Of the other,
all of
those-
these
of that
things,
section.
of this section right here.
those were all the questions I had on the 001, for at least the residents here, there are 001 residents of concern about the differential between version 2 and version 3, of how you were able to take and go from 1,800,000 down to 1 million, what are we now? Or $1,163 versus $1,800.
Any other questions for the general fund, 001? So just to recap, the only change that we have is reducing the sod replacement to 70,000, everything else stays the same.
And 2 or 3 things to
Subject
look
to
at
actual
between.
year.
Yes, well, we're setting the high water mark So that'll be, this will be what is included in the letter, and then, yes, until we go to the August, hopefully the proposed August public hearing, where we can better refine some of these.
So the status staying
Okay,
at
Steve,
230,
if
or
you-
should we drop to 70 for high water?
Okay, if
I
you
am
do that,
reviewing
Steve,
right now.
you now have the deal.
I
Going
have
back to
it.
page 2,
I have it.
what is the numbers now that we're showing on there for 2026 that were 1376 and 1102
Hang on.
are now what?
It goes to, you're looking at the one that has the roadway allocation, water management, parks and. Rec.
Everything on there,
Okay,
bond
so that
series,
doesn't
whole line.
include, okay, so you're looking at that one.
Total
The
deal,
assessment
that's what
sheet
they have to pay.
is now, let me pull this
You
up.
want total with debt service?
I'm sorry?
You want total with the debt service?
Yeah, it's what they have to pay,
1345.22.
1345. And for
Multifamily is 1071.
1071.
What is the increase?
It's on the total.
Net-
No, the net change for single family is 100, around up, 155, and for multifamily is 126.
Okay, and the percentages, those, I always hated percentages, they don't mean nothing. 1345 and 1071 is right now going in as a high water mark.
Well, once we get through this, yes, if
Yeah,
that's the only numbers that change.
And
between
then
now and
between
the
now
rest
and 60 days from now, we've got 2 or 3 other items that could.
So the only thing
Have
I
a
changed, I
exact
reduced the
drop down.
7 to 70, and that was the impact, yep.
Okay.
All right, is there anything for 002?
Yes. If you go down to the very end of 002,
The last page,
Well,
Yes.
last page.
the GIS Board of Works, yes, that page.
It printed weird, sorry, I was in a hurry.
okay, the $506,800 that for Pelican's share of the administration building.
Correct.
But didn't we levy last year 300 and some odd thousand for our share of what we felt was going to be the cost last year?
So if you look above that, these numbers right here, you actually did not assess for that last year. You chose to offset it with reserves. So Pelican did not actually pay for that dollar amount for fiscal '25. If you look, it's right here. This 265,480, which is for the capital outlay. And then it was decided that you were going to use carry forward, so you never actually paid for that. It was not assessed.
Had the bill come due, it would have been paid out of reserve.
It would, it came out of reserves. There was no assessment.
But there was no assessment.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I thought we had assessed.
Nope.
And that money should
Carol, I
be
thought
in
the same
reserves
thing.
It
then.
was, nope, it
I
was
thought
taken
the
out of
same thing.
reserves.
Okay,
It was an authorization to spend if required.
Yes, from reserves.
But it could be
Yep,
delayed.
up to this dollar amount, yes.
okay.
So that never actually hit your tax bill.
So from the original amount that was in the 2023 bond amount for
Yes.
the administration building, this is the total additional cost, the 506,800 is the total.
No. The 506, if you can, I don't know if you can read my note here. The total 14% Pelican share with the new costs, all in for the admin building, is $961,000, it's $961,011. It's this line right here. You had bonds in the 2023 series of 506,800. So that's why that amount is here, and it's also offset down here. This is the difference between those two numbers. So your share is 961,011, and you already have $506,800 in bonds. This is the difference, the 454,711.
Okay. So whether by reserves or
Assessment.
assessment, the total amount that Pelican owes on that administration building is $506,800.
No, $961,011. It's these two numbers together.
Right,
See this, the total is
Okay.
961,011. You have bonds already issued of 506,800. This is the delta, the 454. So you actually are paying a total of $961,011 for the admin building. But Some of it's already taken care of by the bonds.
Right.
The 454,000 is what's left over. That's your
Shortfall.
That's your shortfall. Pelican, Gateway has one, Enterprise Fund has one, we all have a shortfall.
Okay, so the shortfall, okay.
So the difference
The
between.
total is 961,
Yes,
Which is equates to 14%.
yeah, that's your
Still-
14%.
454 due.
Correct. And the difference between this budget and what Gateway is doing is that at the PPAC meeting in May, they had opted, at least for purposes of the high water mark, they recommended to assess the shortfall and not take it from reserves.
And what if at a subsequent meeting now, after we take this vote, what if PPAC chooses to take it from reserves or some combination thereof?
Your assessments will go down for fiscal
It-
26.
Down how
Yes.
much?
Just a minute, I can tell you exactly.
Be a pretty good chunk of money there.
I would hope. Hence the reason why I'm asking the
Like
question.
$100 a home.
Divide by 25.
That's close.
Yeah, well, without a calculator, I can't do that.
Okay, so. No, I just made zero. I was gonna check. Your new assessment would be, it would go down $46.20 for a single family and $32.69 for a multifamily. The new amount for single family would be $1107.95. And multifamily would be $985.67, which is a 4.2 and 3.3% decrease in assessments. So the methodology is actually in your favor.
Okay, but the version 2 that we saw, Pelican was paying an additional $70.
That was that
some
number. That's this,
something.
that's because of this number right here.
Version 3, we're paying 140 something. So if it only goes down 40 some odd dollars, you still got $100 that it's increasing.
That was the impact of the wages, the 100,000 that you guys gave us to spend. That was the only thing that I changed in the budget.
And the shared.
And the shared cost of the flowway, which was similar before, but yeah. The $100,000 pool that you gave us for the merit increases, that some, let's see, where's that up there?
Big changes in the roads, so
Uh,
the roads is a big change.
the road went down. Oh, we had a different, because of some expenses on the Gateway side, the road base actually went down too.
So Pelican is now baseline.
Double.
Yes,
The Stony Brook's not either.
Stony Brook is not in.
and Pelican's the base.
So on the prior version, Gateway was for the roadway calculation, Gateway was the baseline for both landscaping and road maintenance. After we went back, looked at the numbers, adjusted some numbers, moved some around, Pelican became the baseline. So it went from like 417 to
So like 369.
377. So Pelican Road is the baseline now, and Gateway Landscaping is, or are they the baseline for both?
No, it's not both. Gateway Landscaping is the base at $37.99, and Pelican Roads are the base at
So
$371.
that was another big change. Because the costs went down.
Okay, so your statement to me earlier that if Pelican took everything out of reserves, our increase would actually go down and we'd be less.
Correct.
We'd be paying less
You're
than
paying
last year.
less, yes.
Wasn't true because you're using the roadway and everything else.
It was-
It's still gonna increase by $100.
No, it still goes down. You were negative even before the changes in the roadway. It had a very small impact, a matter of maybe like $10. So it was negative. As soon as I took out that amount or offset it by using reserves, that $454,000 number,
Right.
your assessments increased before we even messed with the roads. And so now when I take it out, it just didn't decrease as much, but it still decreased.
So if at a subsequent meeting, PPAC were to say, we're just gonna pay it.
Yep.
And be done with you people.
Yep.
Get you out of our hair completely. What would the assessment be?
That's what I just gave you, that's the numbers. If I take that dollar amount out, that 454,000, that is your assessment amount. Those two numbers I gave
Can
you.
you tell me them, please?
It would be $1,074.58 for single family and $960.79 for multifamily.
I'm sorry, 17 for what?
No, 1074.58.
10,
74,
74,
58, and then
multi-single family.
yes, multifamily is 96079. 79.
Okay, and then going back to the 002 at the very end, the 400,000.
Yes.
So I thought that, okay. The 300,000 to offset the extra ponds, that's because they want to do a project that's 600,000, and they were talking about budgeting 300,000 this year and 300,000 next year.
Correct.
But but I think staff had suggested to them that they do all of 600,000 and see if you can't get some other funding through different
The grant.
grants and things like that, right? But you're budgeting for it anyway, why can't that?
The grant would not come to fruition at least for 2 years.
And you need to budget for what the expenses are actually going to be on the top line, so if I only put 300 in, you can only spend 300.
Yeah,
If
they're
I
gonna
put
do the whole
six-
bond in 1 year. They're going to spend the 600.
Right,
And if the budget only has 3.
they can only
for that year,
spend 3.
You gotta bring the other 3 in from somewhere.
That's why it's
But how
offset.
can we get a grant for it when
That's,
we've
that's,
already done
that's,
it?
that's different. The
If it's
grant money
done-
won't apply to this. We won't get it in time.
It'd be future ponds.
It'll
That's
be
why,
future bonds.
that's why the pond subcommittee is putting, just like we did on the Gateway side, a priority list. So I'll give you an example. When we applied for HMGP, we had applied for 27 ponds. Well, when it actually came time to sign the contract, we're down to 21 ponds because we had already, we couldn't wait. We had to get into compliance. So we're doing that same
You
thought process.
can't do it retro.
Correct. We're doing that.
I know.
We try. We can try, but
Pay as you exit.
yeah.
Okay. And then my last question.
Well, Carol, to follow up the last thing.
Okay,
Is if you took 300,000 out of reserves and only paid for 300 in budget this year, then next year, you put it back, and you don't do anything. So then between the 2 years, you're net. So it's a $300,000 variable expense based on what PPAC wants to do.
okay.
They can assess for it, we pay it all now, or not.
So once you approve the high water mark, if PPAC wants to pay for items out of reserves, absolutely, as long as that assessment, it cannot go over.
Right,
Which we wouldn't.
okay. So I'm sure they will have some discussions in the next meetings
We hope so.
about that. Okay, and then my last question was to Tony. Tony's, Stony Brook isn't in here, it isn't.
We're confident it will all be achieved.
The 30th,
Well, by
By
October
when?
30th, yes, by the, yeah.
September 30th.
And I did have a conversation with JT about it after that meeting regarding like the reason why it's not there. But we have options, either a special assess, but he's also very confident that by the 30th we'll be there. Aware that if it's not, that's what we're gonna develop.
Hopefully by August, actually, quite frankly, but, because I guess Charles Mann is out in PTO for a few weeks, there was another attorney assigned to it, so hopefully we can move it along, or have it in July, no later on this. But either way.
Okay,
But August when?
but let's just say
So we need to approve it.
shit happens. You know, let's just say something goes wrong in all of this. Then there's no money there.
So they do have we're trying to spend it down, anticipating this turnover, but they do have $300,000, a little more than that in their
How much?
reserves. 300.
I was like, A little less than 200. 300?
So,
So there
I
would
think
be
you're kind of
enough,
what's available, because I
Okay.
have stuff encumbered already.
so there would be enough to carry them for the 1 year?
as long as we don't spend it down too much between now and then, but our goal is to get,
That's the whole goal, is to spin it out.
well, it's a double-edged sword, so we're being cognizant. We want to get the paperwork in escrow, because once it's in escrow, we're golden,
Yeah,
Spend.
the association and the district are on the same page,
yes.
and we're all squared away. It's and Charles Mann didn't have that many comments or concerns. It was internal to WCI, and their senior vice president wasn't available for a while, but, so that's why.
Worst case scenario, Carol, like Flavia mentioned, we could do a special assessment, it would be cumbersome, but we could do it, and, I mean, or,
Okay.
And I asked you.
Well, I just want to
you
make
do
sure,
it.
because you're at 0, you can't go up from 0,
yes, ma'am.
from the high water mark,
No,
so.
but again, that's the idea, that if at the beginning of the fiscal year this hasn't been resolved, then we can go through a special assessment process where they get direct bill. It takes a little more time, but again, that can take place.
That's the safety net.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, I have a question on the electricity streetlights.
What section that's yours?
Is it under safety and security?
Yep.
And I guess my question is, are we factoring in the conversion to FPL in this,
Yes,
Yes,
even though it's probably not gonna happen in that fiscal year?
no, from what, the Eric Colling with FPL said, it would be about this time next year.
That they would start?
Well, that he would, that the project would start and or be complete. So it's only taken us, between them starting and stopping, about 5 months to do ours. So we're at high water, we'll have a better idea where we're at.
So if they start next June or July, which is what I think I heard Eric say, and it goes 5 months, it'll take, button up, I guess, the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay. All through here, I see a lot of 10% increase things.
Mhm.
Is that close? I mean, right now, inflation's decreasing.
That's what we were told based from the utilities between, like, if you're looking at. the-
Well, not on utility, anything. I mean, anything on here. There's a lot of things that got 10% bump ups.
Is there a specific
Well,
one?
this one is 10%, I did, because that's what we're.
But even in the 01, I noticed that we have
A
the
lot of
option.
that surrounded like insurance and that like we have additional assets coming on, like we added the fountain this year, we're gonna be adding that in the building. The storage building's gotta be added, so those insurance things are gonna be shared. We don't have those numbers until,
October, actually, I won't have it until September or October. So I didn't just randomly increase stuff, and most of the things, if you look where the 10% is, it's on utilities, electricity, water,
Okay.
insurance, things like that.
So under the existing contract of the district for FDNL, what's the yearly bump up? I know
It
the
depends,
capital
because
cost
that is.
poles.
they have, it depends what, you mean what we're just putting in, or?
What you currently have in, they put new stuff in.
Uh-huh.
What's gonna be the cost next year?
I don't know if there's an increase, because I reached out because we have the same scenario.
Yeah.
I don't, there is no increase for
Well, that was
that.
kind of what my thought was.
Yeah, we'll follow up with Eric, but I,
They do have a hearing in, scheduled
March?
soon, yeah.
No, there's one
No,
for
it's
March
soon.
of next year too.
The increase, I think, goes into effect in March.
Okay,
Yeah,
So we're subject to those future
Yeah.
increases,
yes.
but it'll be across the state, it won't be
Yeah,
specific.
their
to us.
public service commission they have to go in front of them and ask for rate increases. Our FPL guy called us, our account rep called us a month ago and said, hey, just as an FYI.
Heads up.
And then he actually sent us the sheet of what they were projecting,
So
so.
by the contract, there's not an escalator in there for what
No,
we
no.
sold. Okay, thank you.
If ours goes up, everybody's went up, so.
Okay. That's all I have.
all right.
Anything else for 002? Maybe next fund? Anything, nothing for Stony Brook, there is nothing. Town lakes, we're choosing to use, we're putting in a budget, but we're choosing to use reserves, so they will not have an assessment. And we're hopefully get an answer after, on the next agenda item, get an update from Ed. Lake Bank, we reduced this to $1 million, so we only have the one Met Tower contract remaining that you approved this year. Mother Nature, she started raining, so that we anticipate will be next year. Other than that, other than Pelican's Pond 43, I do not intend on doing any additional pond bank restoration projects until we get that HMGP grant.
So we're putting everything else on the shelf.
Yes, we're gonna continue to do our point repairs. We're in design right now for the 21 ponds for the HMGP. We have to finish that, the design, they call that phase 1. They have to approve the design, and then you pass go, collect $200, you move to phase 2, and you get your construction funds.
If we spend this million. Am I
We are
correct?
spending
Okay, am I correct in assuming that next year when I look at the big spreadsheet, it's going to increase from 21 million to 22?
Depends on how much we actually spend.
But pretty close?
Yeah.
Okay.
So nothing for Lake Bank. All right. Enterprise fund, does anybody have any questions on the enterprise fund?
Did you ever get a clarification from the county as to that additional amount that they want to increase all of these, whether that was with the water, already the 8% from the water, in addition to that, or just another 8%?
I have not had a chance to get clarification on that. He did send me the updated numbers. It's all what they're proposing. It's all kind of in the air until it actually goes in front of the Board of County Commissioners. So I am keeping in touch with them to make sure. I told them, I said, give me a 2-month heads up, because whatever you do, we have to backtrack on our side and make sure we account for it. Otherwise, we're going to be paying for it. So.
Well, it sounds if they have the hole that somebody mentioned before, 13 million or something. Sounds to me like it's in addition to.
Yeah, I'll get clarification for your next meeting.
Yeah, but that's a utility issue,
Yeah,
and I think he's talking about.
Not the general fund.
Yeah,
General
but,
fund.
but we have to have another rate study then.
Depends on how serious it is.
Right.
Or, maybe not rate study, but just increase it by the actual number that Lee County passed, if it's a pass.
Pass through.
Just a straight pass.
I'll have an answer before the next meeting.
Okay.
Anything for the enterprise fund?
I don't have anything.
I have one question. Most of our vehicles right now, I assume are gasoline or diesel.
We have a blend, a mix, yeah,
Do
gas.
we have any totally electric?
No.
Is there a reason we don't? Is there an opportunity there?
Wait,
Yeah,
I'll touch on that. I don't know if you recall about 2 years ago that Chelsea brought it up, the
Electric charging stations?
the charging stations, and I think the entire board was like, absolutely not. So I think maybe that's why, because that was a revenue generator too, so it was like, there was a.
And where I'm coming from, I mean, these are all short-term trips, the majority of what they're taking.
I will say the problem with, and I don't have an electric vehicle, I don't know much about them,
Neither do
but
I.
most of our vehicles, because they're parked alongside the road, have to have the lights on, so they have to stay on, otherwise you'll kill the battery. I don't know how that would work with an electric vehicle. I mean, we can always look.
I would just like to look at it, and I'm not in favor of electric vehicles, I don't have a tree under it. But for short-term trips, it looks like an opportunity, because when I look at gas alone, with 20,000, 26,000 a year, that just seems like something,
So
for some vehicles, it might be appropriate.
we piggyback either the Sheriff's Association contract or the state contract, so we get, probably not as good as you, but we get a pretty good deal on our vehicles. But we can evaluate that moving forward for sure.
Until the government figures out a way to tax road use for electric vehicles,
It's,
the gas guzzlers are paying for all of it.
yeah,
Sooner or later, that might come, and I would think that would tip the equation at least dollar to dollar, say that might be.
the only thing we'd have to install an electric charging station, and then we'd have to, I mean, that's,
It's always something.
But they generally park every night, even just
Yeah.
to spot the charger.
absolutely. We'll look into it.
It's a
Hybrid.
Or hybrid, yeah.
Yeah,
Hybrid's another one.
absolutely.
It seems like that's the switch they need to hybrid.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to see if we're considering that, particularly at enterprise.
Okay. With the enterprise fund, a lot of our trucks and same with Public Works, they gotta be heavy duty to pull the equipment that we pull, so I don't know that they'll be suitable, but for like the inspection, like for pond inspections, or even with admin, we can look at one. All right, anything else for enterprise? Hearing none.
That's it.
All right.
We're done.
We don't have any additional items for this, other than, Tony, do we have to set the public approval to set the public hearing?
Yeah, the board will adopt a resolution to set the public hearing. I think the resolution is in your agenda packet.
And referencing that we're going to base it on version 4.
There would be the proposed budget that would be referenced and posted. And I guess one of the questions is, right now, the draft resolution sets the public hearing date and time and location is here. Is it anticipated that there might be an alternate location, depending upon?
We will have overflow at the church. We have secured that location. This church right here.
That would need to be also, we need to add that to the resolution, that address and location for overflow.
So proposed version 4.
Which the only change is reducing the sign to 70K.
One last
Could you
thing.
state the motion?
Well, the motion be to adopt resolution with the 2025
Yeah.
dash, let me get that.
Hang on, I'll get
Resolution
it for you.
2025-17, setting, approving the budget for purposes of transmitting to the city of Fort Myers and to Lee County, and to post on the district website as appropriate, and the date and time of the public hearing to be August 21st, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the district boardroom with overflow location of the church. We'll put that address in across the street.
Do we need to reference somewhere that motion, Tony, version 4?
Yeah, it'll be an.
It'll be attached as the exhibit.
Yeah.
So that's the budget that will be
As
attached.
an-
And it also outlines in the resolution the directions to the manager for advertising, and we're working on that. We have a draft advertisement already.
Yep.
There's 3 notices that we need to be, because of the assessment methodology, similar to what we did back in 2020.
You need a vote on it?
Yes, that would be the motion.
My motion.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. One last format question for Ms. LaRue. I love the fact that we
Miss
got our
LaRue?
versions on here now.
Who's Miss LaRue?
I'm sorry,
You call me Miss LaRue.
Miss Laura.
He merged the
Now you understand, that's a senior moment. Lash
You called
LaRue.
him out on it.
Lash LaRue.
Make a motion that Laura change her name to,
Well, I thought my
this
slashes were
2024.
good. I got the assessments down. Come on.
Anyway,
Well, you didn't get them down for us, I got part of this. Version 3 is on the left-hand side, the date's on the right.
Yeah.
Can we put the page numbers in the center?
Just for.
Page 1 of whatever.
No.
Because that way, when we're looking, a lot of times,
Yeah.
it just make it easier.
This will, the next time you see this,
It will be pretty.
it will be cleaned up, and then the typical version that you're used to seeing, that, like when you adopt it. So this is a working version, just because.
So one change and then add in one note for that shirt.
I already
that
had
item
it
that
on.
showed-
Yeah, I already
showed
did.
cost.
No, it's already done. I just need to.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we'll have the public hearing. So Tony, the 3 notices.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Yeah.
We've already voted, can I go fast?
I was focused on LaRue.
Yeah.
Thing's already dry.
Tony, do you just want to touch on the 3 notices that we'll be sending?
Yeah, the notice is the usual notice of the public hearing and the budget hearing. Then there's also a notice of the budget hearing, public hearing, and levying of assessments. Actually, there's 2 resolutions and 2 notices. And then the notice will be sent by mail. The individual property owners, where either the methodology, all of them will get it because the methodology has changed, and also some will get it because of the increased assessments. The statute has 4 times when you have to mail notices, as well as put an ad in the newspaper. So that'll be in advance, well in advance of the meeting.
I think all that stuff is nice and is the legalese, but that doesn't help the guy on the street. We need to have a brief letter written that we send out to our residents that in English says what we do. Because there is still a lot of mistrust of how we got with that $1,800. It's like, what did you try to do, pull it off on us? No, we're not asleep out there. We need to explain how this thing generated, because somebody's going to look at it, and they're going to look at it like it was nothing but a wish list, and we caught them.
Well, I guess one
We
thing.
need to have an explanation of what happened.
I sent some screenshots to Chelsea yesterday. I'm like, how do we even explain this? I think that's important. Short to the point.
Yeah, short
Yeah,
to the point.
and one thing, we'll work with staff on that, because we want to make sure we don't do anything that sort of contradicts or runs afoul or.
We'll pass it by the-
No, yeah, that needs to be, I understand what you're, the approach and
We
the
can
concept.
have a, remember Christian Rivers letter one time?
Yeah,
We can have that.
yeah, we need, it just needs to be something to explain how we got from version 1 at 1800 down to 1100, whatever the number is, that the basis of it. Because when you start, okay, something simple, the legalese doesn't get it.
Okay,
We'll work on it.
I have it. I'll make
All
it.
right. Nothing
So
else, nothing else for the budget?
now, so we'll go ahead and move to town lease and Ed. Give us the
Well,
news, agent.
Bottom line is, Vince is not going to sign the deal. He doesn't understand it. He wants a pound of flesh for what happened 18 years ago. And I don't know what happened 18 years ago, other than somehow the ball got dropped. And I told him, I said, Vince, this is the opportunity to get this thing fixed once and for all and eliminate this issue. The one that you had prepared had some issues in it that, I think he had the understanding that you, Tony, drafted that, but the document itself
Did not.
isn't clear.
I did not.
He prepared it.
That's correct.
So it just was not, all of those things added. His deal is, no, I'm not gonna sign it. He said, I will talk to people in Tallahassee, but I said, well, we really need to have it for today's meeting.
And they said, and he was the only one?
Well, he's the only local surviving member, officer at the time of dissolution, and I know, and I spoke, and you mentioned something about wanting some protection, in case everybody went after him. I'm comfortable with having language in the deed that the district as grantee will defend the conveyance against claims of all other parties. And so I'm comfortable.
And I
having-
suggested that, and it's still, he said, I've got to talk to Tallahassee. So I don't know who he's talking to in Tallahassee, but he does imply that he's talking to another attorney, but he's stuck. He's not going to sign it.
In the alternative, we can try to file a quiet title action. I've spoken with Lenore about doing that, saying that they've indicated provide the deed, the district has been out there maintaining it, and so that we have, and hopefully get a default judgment quieting the title in the name of the district. So that can happen if there's a default judgment, nobody answers, no response, we serve everybody in that.
I think we proceed with that.
Yeah, we can work on a budget.
I think we proceed with that.
What we'll do is, we'll prepare a budget for that action, for a quiet title action, and bring that to the board and start that process, and the board approves the budget.
Has
Okay, Chelsea,
anybody,
are you good with that?
has anybody talked to the 13 property owners down there? Do they understand what we're doing?
We
I
have,
don't
we
think
have
that-
not reached out to the property owners.
I really think we should reach out to them. I don't even know that they know they're being assessed.
Well, I think what would be helpful about that is we can also discuss with them that, listen, if we file this quiet title action, we don't want you to incur any legal fees. And so here's what we want to do. We want to make sure the title to the property is in the name of the district. And it'll save a lot of
Can
heartache.
you write something like that?
And then say, here's, and if we file a quiet title action, we'd like you to consent to entry of a judgment. And we're not going to look for attorney's fees from you, or costs, or expenses. We just want to have the name of the title of the road and the name of the district. We
You
can do
don't, you
that.
don't think Vince will sign with the new,
Protection.
the additional language that Tony is proposing, that you guys have discussed?
I brought that up to him. He said, I want to talk to Tallahassee. Who he's going to talk to in Tallahassee, I have no clue.
In the meantime, we'll still prepare a budget and game plan.
All right.
But I think if we would get Tony to draft not a legalese letter, but a letter to these 13 owners, letting them know, perhaps, maybe one or two of them can call Vince, sign this and get it over with. We're not coming after you for this. Water is way over the dam of what happened 17 years ago.
So you said he's the only one local, but is it somebody else that we can reach out to?
There were 4 people at the time of dissolution. I'll double check to see what I can find. I think the only person I could find last time was Vince. That was my recollection.
Because Vince was the closest. and
That was my
easiest.
recollection last time.
Okay, so let's-
Vince was the president at the time.
Yeah.
That's right.
So let's
Any-
do both things.
And I'll work with Chelsea on a short letter with a reasonable size font, 1 page.
So Tony, just, so of those 4 people, any one of them could sign this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tony, do you know who they are?
Give me the names.
Because if you know the names,
Give me the
maybe I
names.
know somebody.
I can check real quick, hang on.
I don't need them right now. Give them to me, email.
Okay.
Work together.
They're in the memo from back then, I can go to Sunbiz real quick.
All
Yes.
right, I don't have anything else regarding town lakes. Like I said, with the budget, we're going to just use reserves to offset, and we've got a plan to address some of the maintenance issues over there, and we'll get going on that. So I don't have anything else.
Comments?
Can we get a compensation for this week since we're canceled? Would you, July?
No, it's a continuation.
Continuation.
It's a different day, different meeting.
Supervisor, we got any comments?
More.
Yeah,
Okay, because I've got one we gotta get.
okay, so let's,
What was the answer to my question?
conversation, it's a continuation, so it's the same meeting,
Yes.
it's not,
I drove over here twice.
Me too. 50 miles and you can expense the mileage.
Sugar, electric vehicle.
All right, so we'll go ahead and do the supervisor comments, Carol?
No.
Yes, and not just because they're sitting in the back row, but I am getting very, very frustrated that we are getting nowhere on Santa Luz, on that pond. Lennar is just doing nothing. I would suggest that we give them a letter and give them 7 days. If they aren't doing anything, let them know that we're going to file whatever necessary actions is with Lee County, what do you
Code
call it?
enforcement.
Code enforcement, the fact that they are not honoring what they said they were going to do in that community and put it into this. Those residents have put up with this crap long enough.
So
Go ahead.
Tony and I discussed this in our weekly meeting. We too are fed up, just so you all know. We do have our engineering firm going out there monthly and taking pictures and measuring the erosion that is growing even worse.
It's getting worse.
So Tony did ask that I solicit some proposals and cost estimates that it would take to bring that to the standards and to the requirements. I've got to reach out to the 3 vendors. I do plan on sending that out today. That way we can have a dollar value associated to these damages. And then Tony, if you want to just tell them, go from there, what.
Yeah, the code enforcement and also, then a demand order to do it and look at all routes for litigation if necessary. I think code enforcement.
Lennar has asked us to review Arborwood, since we haven't taken over Arborwood Phase 3. So he asked for an inspection yesterday, and I replied with it depending on his answer on Santa Luz.
Good answer.
So,
Has Lennar been in communication
yes,
with you
Yes.
and so what is their delay?
I have not received a response regarding the delay from Lennar for Santa Luz, but they are answering other questions other than Santa Luz. So they don't get answers from me unless I get an answer from them, is where I'm at.
Anything else, Ed?
Just real quick, there's 3 people, Vince Sardo, David Tibble, Tibol, and Wolf Chakowski.
Can you email me those, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
They just had 3.
Yes.
All right. We're going on a detective hunt.
Bob? Nothing? I just have 2 things. So you reach out to the county sheriff's office for a presentation of the cameras?
I will.
Okay. And I did notice that we talked about yesterday, the painting of Griffin on the roads. Yeah. Is the plan,
That was not
sorry,
us.
Gateway Boulevard. Is the plan of doing Griffin and the side roads as well, or
Right.
just Gateway Boulevard?
I don't know, that was Lee County DOT.
Can you find,
I'm assuming that they'll come back.
Okay.
What are you talking about here?
Lee County
No,
DOT.
meaning, can Paul reach out to them and find out?
Yeah, Lee County DOT came out yesterday with their truck and painted the lines on Gateway Boulevard.
I saw, yeah.
So we're trying to see if they're gonna do Griffin and the other side roads.
And then lastly,
I have one thing from Randy. He just,
the audit,
I need your audit.
yours.
I printed out the paper, so I just need you to fill this out for free.
Okay, and then 2 more things. The pond, Pelican Preserve Pond, that pond that I went and visited, I think Ed did too. How are we good? Is everything you repaired? To your,
What Doug told me yesterday was he's happy with the repair, but it really won't see anything for the water bills. And the washouts have all been fixed.
okay, and has Paul visited that pond?
36? No, that's
Okay.
before his time.
Okay, but given it, I think, since Doug checked it, I think we staff should just double check that.
Yeah, because we've had a lot of heavy rain. lately.
Yeah, and that's why I was thinking.
That's right.
So.
I look at it every time I
See
go
how
by.
it stood up.
We
Yeah.
rely on the Pelican Pond Subcommittee, but we
But I
keep
think
eyes
on
on it.
this one,
And
just
if
give it
something
the
occurs
condition.
before the pond's filled, they'll fix it.
Okay, and then I did receive a few emails about the e-bikes, mainly from Stony Brook. And I know we had some damages at the golf course, and then I guess yesterday, Hampton Park. We have talked to the county sheriff's office. What is their deal?
It's
We're
whatever the
working
state,
with them closely
whatever
right
the
now.
state statute is.
Their problem is, like they told us in our community, is that you guys, you're not going to get anything quickly out of the county until staff or the legislature does something to define these.
Yeah.
So what they suggested to us, and I've got to bring to my board next week, is I want to register these, and I'm talking not e-bikes, I'm talking e-dirt bikes. They're the ones that are the problem.
Above the 720 or 750?
750,
Yeah, 750, okay.
They're doing 30, 35 mile an hour, and then come up with a policy, if they're like, because our roads are private, we can say that you can't be on sidewalks. They can't do that because the state statute allows them to be on the sidewalk. But his deal was, that they're just, don't expect anything out of the county.
Well, I'm, to me, it's the wetlands. The last damage that is a different issue. They're going into the wetland and creating damage.
The bikes
The
are,
bikes are. So there's some pictures, I think I forwarded with the,
I
if not, I haven't seen it in email. And mainly the FPL easement and then also Hampton Park Conservation. So maybe staff can go and visit those areas.
Can you send me the pictures?
got an idea.
So that we can address, and that's what I think with Lee County, if we can just find out who they are, because we cannot enforce the writing on the sidewalk, but we can enforce the damages, we can enforce other things like FPL easement, trespassing there.
Yes, trespass.
It's going to be extremely difficult because the bikes are very similar and they're wearing helmets.
They have tags?
And
No.
it's
Black
very
and-
hard
and they're
to,
wearing
we've been
all
talking about
black.
Stony Brook, and my kid's got a bike, and my concern is when he's riding with his black helmet and his black bike, that he's being associated with every other 8, 12
Yep.
other bikes that are out there. And I'm not saying we don't do anything, but maybe it's more, we have to be more vigilant when we see something happen, we have to call and report it immediately.
But I think, they drive to the FPL easement, because we have the game cameras there, they drive to the FPL easement daily, 3 to 4 times a day.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there is something wrong with that, they shouldn't be there, we're not
We can't restrict people from riding down the easement.
yes, no motorized vehicle.
And we own it.
That's a bike,
Property.
it's a bicycle.
No, it says no motorized anything.
No.
No, I'm talking about the dirt bikes.
You're talking about if it's classified as a,
I'm talking about those.
okay, just
So
want to make
if-
sure we're
so
clear
if-
that we're not.
If we haven't detailed there, and if they catch them there, they can trespass it. I'll tell you that the last time I was doing some bee removal over there, the police actually stopped. They came from Stony Brook, they put one of the kids in the car, and the other one was holding and waiting on the bike on Gateway Boulevard, so I don't know, and it was actually a girl. They took the girl into the car back to Stony Brook and left the bike with the sidewalk with the other person that was riding. I don't know what the issue happened, but I did see that.
So as long as the bike's not motorized, they can? Is that what I just read?
No, there's classifications.
There's different types.
So if
There's
you,
3 classes of e-bikes, and then there are e-dirt bikes, totally different on power. That's what we're worried about. The e-dirt bikes, people buy, and the kids buy a dirt bike to joyride. Going up and down the sidewalk, don't get it. They want to go someplace where they can throw the dirt in the sand, and there's no place here to do it.
Except the FPL easement.
so I think there's,
I question them, as a board member in protecting the community, I question the liability of us allowing it to happen. Why are we allowing them? If they want to go up and down the blacktop, that's one thing. But to go out there and drive through that deal, somebody has a wreck, somebody hits something, somebody hits a wire that's sticking out there because they didn't see it, cuts their head off, guess who's going to get sued?
Do we have enough warning signs out there, no motorized vehicles, electric
There's
pedestrians?
only one on Griffin. I do not believe there's one on Dewey Boulevard. or
That's
that
why I come
area.
full back. Our agreement with Lee County, does that give us any right? I know the roads are a totally separate issue, but because we have some liability on those sidewalks, replacement and all that, does that give us any right to do a policy on the use of the sidewalks by
I'd say
none?
no. Again, our agreement solely is to maintenance.
So the only thing that we could do then would be on the roads and paths that we own, i.e. the
No, nothing.
FPL easement.
Oh, yeah, that,
The FL easement, we could adopt a policy on
Yes.
that, but that'd be about it.
Yes.
How about the linear parks? Can they ride up and down them?
that's what we're talking about.
When we say FPL, really
Talking about
referencing
linear
our
parks.
linear
Yeah.
park.
Well, to me, going up and down the park and just riding on the pavement, that's one thing. I mean, it's pretty stupid that you would have a requirement that would be so anal to eliminate it there, and you go outside and you can do it. I mean, that doesn't make sense. But on the other hand, I mean, you stay on the block.
There's two things we're trying to eliminate. One is damage to property.
Yep.
And two is safety risks and concerns, both to the rider and to the other residents of the community. And unfortunately, the way these are classified is it puts them in, most of them, in the bucket of a bike. Now, the question would be, if I'm riding a bike and I'm doing wheelies on the sidewalk or in the middle of the road, if an officer were to stop me, you know, what would our position be if these were just regular bicycles and there was careless and reckless activity going on? Would there be any enforcement? Is there anything? I mean, I've read through the statutes and I can't find anything, but.
I guess the question, our concern, sounds like the concern is going off the paved path, because that's a cleared path, and as far as the FPL easement. I think when you go off the paved path, you have retention areas, you have unimproved areas, you have guy wires, you have cables, you have sports stanchions.
And that's what I was, like,
Yeah.
I have the park, like, the picture of really bad.
Well, that's the damage piece, but I'm talking about the safety concerns that residents have, you know?
Right.
And like in Stony Brook, they're riding on the roads, on the smaller sidewalk, on the larger sidewalk, and.
Do you guys want to take this up as an agenda item in the future?
Yes.
Yeah, I think a
I don't
comprehensive
think we're
approach to
gonna solve anything
e-bikes.
today.
Yeah.
On district assets.
I know we've got an executive session Monday to go over this issue because we sent a letter to 5 kids that were identified illegally entering our community. And the parent of one came back to us with basically what appears to be the coming of the lawsuit. And our deal is we're gonna put it down, we're gonna put it
Don't you love
down.
those parents?
My kid does nothing wrong.
Well, when they come out and
You're doing
they
everything wrong.
when they say, and you guys got, you got a little bit different deals, is that ours are private
private.
roads.
Yeah.
That's a big
Well,
difference.
ours are riding on the golf course.
Well, yeah, ours are too. The issue is that it's gotta stop, and some of these parents, it's ridiculous what they're.
You're criticizing my child? How dare you?
All right, we will bring this
I
back.
move to adjourn.
as an agenda.
So moved.
I moved to get paid, but that's fine.
We got paid in donuts.
You just got.
I didn't eat any donuts.
You just got 50% of it.